All right, we have made it to Colonial Williamsburg. Checking it out, exploring the town, gonna eat. It's gonna be a good time. So I'd highly suggest you look up the legislative process that this lady shared with us. It is insane. Like, if you committed a major crime and they were going to hang you, you could say, I want a clergyman, and get off. And first offense, you basically let off. So nobody was actually ever hanged. Only, in fact, from the history they know, only one person ever actually went to jail. Now, those people that did the stocks and stuff like that, where they put your feet in the binds, I'll show a picture of that, or you put your hands in the thing. But that was actually, there's only a couple things that you could do that if you offended a judge or you didn't go to church. So, yeah, the laws are really quite different than what one would expect. Not really elected officials per se, but in any case, I mean, it's a wild history to really dig into. So these are some of the things that that you get from Williamsburg that are really interesting, and I recommend. So I got some good pictures. You're gonna like them. Stay tuned.
And I mentioned too, if you play sports with us, 18th century, we did find an 18th century set of rules for a game that we called football. So if you get tackled, there's your knee brace if you crack your kneecap, leg splints for broken legs, and you'll have to promise you'll stay in bed. So for young folks, 6 weeks in bed. These are not walking braces, okay?
And we've got 3 silk threads. I'm just essentially going to braid it through these silk threads right here. And it's a 3-legged weave. It's called the emery doubled. It's one of the more common weaving patterns. There are 12 different hair weaving patterns that wig makers would use during the period.
Why do you wear stains?
Not only is it fashionable to have a rounded cone shape,
But they made all
but
these
it helps
in
us
there?
stand up straight. Gives us good posture.
I think we could say that's probably a yes and a no answer, depending on where you're at in the scheme of things and how you look at it. I think it's a good job, but not everybody would probably agree. So I really not like what they were doing, but they had to do it.
Did you make all?
They were all made here, yeah.
Customer. I'm working on the body of this horse cart right here, one on top of an older set of wheels. And my other colleague is making a pair of wheels for the house cart here.
And it's, a lot of bookbinding is not really earth-shattering, exciting stuff. It probably is for you because, you don't do it every day, I would imagine. Unless, and I don't want to judge, I'm pretty sure we get people in here all the time that put books together, and I've had people that do bookbinding come in.
We've got wooden handles, wool surrounded by sheepskin, and these skins are getting a little OLD, and we're suffering from having some bad copies from yesterday. Some of it was because on page 17, which is right there was an H that was pretty well clogged up with ink, and we have seen some copies where when you print, those could be indentured servants or apprentices or even slaves. It's particularly common in America for slaves to be pressmen. And you can even find enslaved pressmen in Boston. Well, I don't know if it's as common there as we're going to see in the South. So children, who amongst you can explain why the thing is called a press?
Because the press is down.
Yeah. Why is it called a letterpress? Why am I called a letterpress printer? What is in the press? Letters. And then you decide to. What you don't want to do is dry because you're having to dry the paper, and running the paper through water in the tub takes an overnight to go from wet to just damp. So here's a question for all.
Evidence is knowing how long to keep leather soaked in water and how long it needs to be out. And there's a lot of different variables that go on in that. So a really good professional shoemaker this time of year will be able to take into consideration not just, okay, how long do I need to keep it in the tub, but given the temperature levels and the humidity levels that we've got going on today, how long does it have to be out of the tub to get down to the point of...
Accurate in saying that I was busy from the time I woke up to the time I put my head back on my pillow. But I'm very pleased that we have been able to find some time to share this space and conversation with you today. I'm certain that the Colonel will be able to... And there you are!
Apologies for my tardiness. I had to convince William of which clothes to wear.
You mean William was convincing you of which clothes to wear?
Which ones not to, mostly, actually.
Exactly. Our friends are here to have conversation with us.
Afternoon, everyone. Hope you all are well today.
Thank you.
Good, good. Been very quiet, circumspect. Well, I appreciate the fact that you all have taken the time to come and visit as we prepare this challenging and difficult endeavor. You all understand that these past few years have been difficult with our agreements with Parliament and the Crown of Great Britain. Last year, 1774, a Continental Congress was called together for the colonies to all come into some sort of agreement on what must be done.
They like to use kids to carry the bricks from the table out to the sun, the field to dry in the sun. And then they're fired in the kiln. Well, those bricks can't survive a rainstorm until they're fired. So once
nice white flour bread back here.
We're going to keep it white in colour. We don't want to have it dark because the governor wants you to see the expensive flour that he uses. Now today white flour is our cheapest flour, but in this time period whole wheat is the cheapest flour. So you don't want to see, you don't want to be seen walking around with whole wheat flour, but you definitely want.
That's nice, people.
Well, sometimes it stays out for a few days, and we see thousands of people each day who get to learn about this stuff.
It's for educational purposes.
I know, but it's food.
Now, don't get me wrong, sir. Now, that cake right there, that lemon cake, there was another one of those. It's not out there right now. It hit the break room, and it lasted about 5 minutes.
And the Governor's Palace, which is right there. This is the gardens and the maze area. Super photogenic, super cool. Love it. If you were rich, had some money, you could end up as the governor. If you had a trade, I mean, that's pretty good. You can make a living in the area, you know. Food issues were kind of interesting. Definitely read about that. So, but thumbs up Williamsburg. I like it.
Now, most people know him as the man who goes and apprehends Blackbeard the pirate in North Carolina. So he's the guy that goes and does that. He brings him here to Williamsburg with 16 of his other pirate friends, put him on trial, and he probably gets justice.
Yeah.
He's our governor for 12 years. He helps to design the palace, design the gardens as well. So by the time, well, it starts in 1706, right? The construction starts, doesn't finish till 1722. Okay, that service door so that all the servants and slave staff here can come in and out of the palace, bringing in food, bringing in and out dishes, things like that. So that whole side of the palace, this whole side, dedicated to service. Okay, we have what we call a warming room, a staging room, right? Where we got to bring all that food in, plate it on porcelain.
enslaved black people as well as the small number of free black people. Laws that limit their ability to gather with one another. Don't want that happening because they might plot some sort of revolt, right? Laws that take away the right to bear arms of free black people. They're not allowed to serve in the militia, but they're also not allowed to possess a gun for either hunting or self-defense. Why? Because they don't want Africans, slave or free, to have access to guns. Why? Once again, because they're afraid of revolt. So they find her guilty. She pleads benefit of clergy, and to their credit, the justices of the peace in the county courthouse look at each other and scratch their heads and admit that they don't know what to do, because the law says nothing whatsoever about whether an enslaved person can do this. Now they could have shot her down. They could have said, no, you can't do that, you're gonna be hanged. But they didn't. They took the unusual step of referring her case up to the general court and basically asking the governor's council to decide what to do. To their credit, the governor's council does the same thing. Nobody can come to a consensus about what to do for Mary Aggie. So the governor, Governor Gooch, he refers the question to London. And unfortunately, London drops the ball. London, it's not that they say no, they just never get around to answering. So meanwhile, Mary Aggie has been held in jail, and instead of having her hanged or pardoning her, this is what he messes up. Unfortunately, he sells her away. We don't know what happens to her after that. But at least she didn't face death by hanging.
Okay, so I had to get out of the heat for a minute. It is 95 degrees here. Holy cow. Anyway, there's something about Williamsburg and the colonial people that I think is really cool, is the fact that all the stuff they make, they either use themselves for the village, the colonial historic village area, or it's ordered by like private people, like, you know, someone like you or me that wants something like that, or museums would order stuff, you know, because it's all handcrafted. It's really quite amazing just how well built this stuff is. It takes them a longer time because of, you know, stopping and having to talk to people like me, you know, or whoever's there asking questions about what they're doing, and they're happy to do that. But I just think that's really cool how everything is used within the entire thing. So very neat.